All right, let's. Call the meeting to order now. And I would say we have us a quorum. And. Get to set it out, we start going. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah. Please ask questions. Approval of minutes, July 10, 2023. Everybody had an opportunity.
I move we accept the minutes of July 10th as written.
I'll second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. All right, real quick down through our agenda, no old business for land use, no old business for development review, new business. No land use ordinance, and now on the B, development review ordinance, town of Islesboro, map 17, lot 17B, application MD 01-23 to conduct a new 4,500 square foot health center building adjacent to the existing municipal building on town property. First question I want to clear up. I mean, I know we got Carly and Dorsey here. We've got Pete Anderson. You're going to be spearheading sort of thing, or what?
The owner's representative.
Owner's representative. Okay. And we've got a letter of standing, correct?
We also have,
I thought we, yeah.
also have Mark from Stephen Blatt's office, the architect.
Where's that?
He's
On the screen?
Yeah.
The guy waving to you.
Okay. You have everybody that you need on the recording? All right. We're gonna take a look at that, right? Let me leave it to, is that your case? I can do this, I guess.
Well, good afternoon. I'm Bill Lane from Gartley and Dorsey Engineering and Surveying. Thanks for your time this evening. As described in the application, we are presenting to construct a new health center behind this building on this parcel of land. To be talking about the piece of property we're on with the project while presenting to the board. It's a unique instance. So here, this parcel is 7.5 acres of land, and the proposed development would construct a single-story, 4,503 square foot health center. That we've provided an indication of the scope of the project on a site plan that indicates the building sited behind this building, an additional set of parking spaces adjacent to it, and utilizing some parts of the loop between here and the preschool. In addition, we have new site development elements, including a new on-site well, septic improvements, and we've submitted the floor plan for the building prepared by Stephen Blatt Architects, and Mark is available via Zoom to present any elements that are of interest to the board, as well as elevations. The building comports with lot coverage, side height requirements, and is an extension of the existing accepted municipal use on the property. So most of the functions that are proposed happen in this building at present. So genuinely not a substantial increase in traffic or municipal impacts in terms of demands on municipal services. That will in fact serve to improve municipal services to the community. This is a funded project. The town has voted to support the project, and we have provided application supporting documentation, including trees, photographs, a location map, not that you needed one, clarification of the protection district and how that applies to the parcel, a delineation report on the wetlands on the parcel as a whole, NRCS soils report, boundary survey for the property, the aforementioned site plan, and architectural plans, and some construction details. I've also prepared a preliminary, which I understand you may have means of addressing chapter 45, but I'm happy to discuss that at a later point. I just don't know how far you might want to get into the weeds tonight, but happy to discuss anything that might be of interest to the board. And thank you for your
Anybody
attention.
have questions?
I have one, I don't know the terminology. It says a new building will have a FFE.
Finished floor elevation,
Oh,
relative to the system.
yeah, I don't build buildings.
No, don't. That's just a technical.
Yep.
It's presented on plan.
Yeah, the architects always say finished floor elevation is 0, which is hard to do, but
Yeah. Yeah.
sorry, Mark. So relative to the benchmark on the property, which is in NGBD, we are at elevation 175 or whatever I said it was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
And
It makes it so you're not building it in a hall or,
Or
all that kind of stuff.
yeah. I did have one question that you mentioned. One place they have 14 parking places, and on the plan and other places you mentioned 17 parking places. And I wasn't quite sure how many parking places.
well, I might stand up and stroll over and count, if you don't mind. Something sounds right to my ear,
Right, 7 and.
7, 8, no, it's gonna be.
Well, and somewhere else it says 14, so it's just, there's just some inconsistency on the
Did
write-up.
they count the handicap spot?
Yeah, the handicap spot is counted,
Yeah,
so those are allocated as counted spaces. And
okay,
so, you know,
So it's
very often
17.
it's probably just a scrivener error.
so
it
it's
is 17,
17.
yeah.
All right, and one thing, in terms of circulation, oh, no, you know, we need to, sorry, we need to, how do you want to address it? The one thing, is you have to do the district that is currently is in resource protection. Hydrant. So we probably need to make a motion.
Where- it's bordering, the potential building is, the proposed building looks like it's bordering the resource protected.
Oh, it is. Oh, well, it is a resource protection hydrant.
But if you go to land use 125-23.
Yeah.
And I take it this,
Yeah, before, yeah.
this is the wetland survey?
Yeah, that it's recreated on the site plan as well, so it's,
Oh, it
yeah,
is?
This
Yeah,
one right here.
yeah. that's correct. Those wetlands are as represented on both exhibits.
And it's determined that the actual building is not in a wetland?
Correct, the proposed building is not in a wetland.
So I think if we find that district plan with the parentheses, it's gonna tell us what to do.
Well, I would just.
You can vote.
I would like to make a motion that based on the wetland delineation report, that the property, the portion of the property outside the wetland boundary does not meet the criteria of a resource protection hydrant and should be considered rural protection district.
Second.
And discussion, what is that gonna, mean for us? That means okay to proceed, correct?
Yeah.
Just wanna make sure I
Not in
understand.
restricted district, yeah.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay.
It's how we should, that's sort of a big elephant in the room one.
Do what?
It was a big elephant in the room for quite a while, so to get that thing
All right.
That
through.
actually shows that it's not in there here.
But it is mapped with resource. It's
It is on the
it's in the resource protection. This is all resource protection. Hydrant. It's a very confusing section of the town. They went wild.
But it's less confusing now.
No. Doesn't matter, I think it's irrelevant now,
All right,
what we voted.
all right. I remember, and it's been a while since we've done one of these like this, I remember we're supposed to major, minor. Yeah.
Mhm.
Just the square footage alone classified as a major.
Okay, all right, yeah. So that has to be officially voted on and done. All right, I'll make the motion that, this application is a major, development. Second. Any discussion? None being heard, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. All right, going back. And the reason this is under development review is because it's town municipalities. Off the top of my head, ask that question, anybody see any reason there has to be a public hearing? This has been voted on.
Been voted on already?
That was on the vote, was it not?
Oh, the town.
The town meeting,
The town approved.
town approved it.
Yeah.
And it's,
So the question still stands. Do we want to have a public hearing? Do we not want to have a public hearing?
yeah, that's good, but
What's that?
is there any butters here?
I don't see a butters here. They all went out. And they had the opportunity to be here.
Right.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
All right, then I will go and say,
No.
right, I'll say, at this time, we don't see any reason for a public hearing. Make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion?
There've been a bunch of public hearings, haven't there?
All right, is that it for discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay.
We need to go through the application now to see if we noticed any gaps. Other than
There are a few
missing new parking spaces. We want to thank you. This is a very thorough application.
Thank you.
I don't think we've ever, in my term, I've never seen one like this. Thank you.
They're a professional.
I heard you say something about the septic system and I've had a hard time hearing. Are you saying that you're gonna test, you're gonna use the same system that's there because it's not really gonna change the amount of people? Or what did you say about that? Just gonna tie into it?
Yeah, the proposal is to use the existing septic system, subject to David's review as LPI. And because of elevations, to say nothing of any other logistic reason, we're gonna need a new septic tank and lift station.
Right, we're probably pumping, right?
Yeah, we're pumping to the elevation required for the field, yeah.
And that goes through you, that's nothing to do with this.
I've got a copy of the design if you'd like to look it over, but.
I'm all right.
All right.
I'm just making sure that I'm trying to make sure we're on this, so.
The way I put it to Janet the other day was, let's get the building approved first, then we'll worry about doing the paperwork for the septic.
Okay, all right.
The application says no bedrooms, but there's a bedroom on the, plan. And the kitchen.
Yeah, so as I understand it, the question was about dwellings. And we're not creating a dwelling. It's present in this building now, apparently some kind of a staff apartment for the health center personnel, and that'll be recreated over there. So we were not indicating that we're adding
Oh, so-
residential units.
So it's coming out of the, it's just, there's one in this one and it's gonna also.
There'll be, that function will happen there.
Okay.
Something, have you received the fire chief comments?
I do not,
Did he have any comments?
He hasn't sent any to me, I don't know whether he's had any.
I've not received anything directly from Mert. If I understood the process, as written, I get a dated receipt from you and I'm obliged to write letters to the town manager and the fire chief and several other individuals, the school and conservation commission, I believe, something along those lines. Invite their interest at that point, so.
Oh,
That
have
would-
you done that? So.
No, because I haven't got a dated receipt yet, so you give me a dated receipt and then within 7 days of receiving the dated receipt, I send these letters out to them. I will say, I believe that Mert's well aware of the project, but that's as far as I will commit.
I'm sure he is.
Interesting.
So you have to send to the, state fire marshal.
That will be, the entirety of this building will be reviewed by the fire marshal, and so, Mark will be addressing that as part of his scope of work.
Probably absolutely nothing to do with our determination on this, but are we gonna start seeing, traffic flow in the parking lot, so it's all one way, one entrance, one exit, or are we still gonna have, what we have now?
Question.
We are happy to receive direction on that point. At present, you have enough width for two-way traffic. And it is not, a situation that
Right.
presents itself as a
That's
traffic
probably
hazard.
a question for somebody else, or,
I think an owner decision might be taken, but we did not see that there was any kind of a risk-based requirement to impose one-way traffic. But happy to do it if the owner wants to do it.
right.
Yeah.
You don't know anything about it, do you?
We have discussed, making it a loop around and angle the parking spot so that people would be funneled out that way.
Right,
And I don't think that we've fully determined the direction we wanted to go yet. We're waiting on some of these other plans to come together and see how it felt. And we should be able to do so fairly soon.
Yeah, that should be on the final plan, how, and definitive before
Yeah.
we approve it.
what's that?
The parking and
Parking, and the flow of the traffic, if there's any question, it's gotta be resolved before we approve it, right?
But so the way you propose the parking, you're gonna make it a one-way in and out, right?
or stay the way it is. We're not sure yet.
On a personal note, I vote for one way. I've been out here trying to get in and around when it's been busy.
Yep.
And I think it would be a great idea to go one way, but I'm just one guy. Not wearing my planning board hat right now when I say that.
Should we go through a couple of these? You're waiting for board direction on page 4.
Where are we? On the 45?
Yeah.
And what number?
D and H.
40, well, where, 45 what?
On his application, no, in his.
Oh.
On the chapter 45 section of the application.
Yeah, well, I've got chapter 45 right here, so.
No, on the
Here we
application.
can share.
So as part of the review process, there are two elements that seem to indicate the board has discretion about requiring additional information for their review. Particular to, under G, the board may require the applicant submit a list of construction items with cost estimates to be completed by the developer prior to the sale of lots, facilities, or buildings. Instead of just saying, we don't think that's really relevant, we just await your direction on
I
that
see.
point.
Wait for us to say it's.
I don't-
Yeah, and then similarly with H, this is trying to get at impacts to municipal services.
I don't know that that's important to us, is it?
I don't think so.
I don't think we have to vote on that, do we? No.
No, I think you would just need to be proactive in telling us it's required.
If it's not, or it's not required.
That would be helpful to know for sure. Shut that down.
Yeah, I think we could vote, make it clean, we can vote that G and H are not required.
Okay,
That seems to be a logical.
we're gonna do that.
Yeah, that's section what?
What's that?
Oh, what section it is,
It's on.
section
page
45 dash
page
58.
4558, yeah.
Yeah, 4558 in our ordinance.
Right,
Section
yeah.
45-58. You all need to look at that, section 45-58, items G and H, we are not requiring that the applicant provide information on these two items.
That can,
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And you opposed, say nay.
and did it say in here that the lighting, would be coming later, information about lighting?
Under separate cover, that's correct. Yeah. Yeah. When the electrical engineer has completed their design work.
And it's all down facing.
Yeah, they've been provided the specific requirements enumerated in the ordinance.
Those of you who remember it, I believe this is gonna be the same site that we were planning on doing a helicopter pad at one point. Same general location.
Right. Site review.
I was wondering in terms of, this nowadays we're talking about probably much heavier rainfall events. And you think in terms of drainage that, are you just planning, or currently, I suppose, it drains into the little wetland to the south of the municipal building, and you'll be aiming the rest of it towards the west?
Yeah, the larger balance of the property, the 7.5 acre, mostly low-lying area. Or I should say it's all 7.5 acres, but the consequential large wetland area behind. So
Mhm.
that would be the objective there. Is to maximize surface runoff routing rather than collecting it in pipes that have,
Yeah.
risk of being undersized. Yeah.
Where do we go from here? Ask a question? Anybody got any more?
No,
What's that?
yeah, let's see if there's anything else.
Yeah.
I think that was everything you were waiting for last time here, isn't it?
Does anybody see distances on our plot plan for what we need?
Oh, you mean for distances from the, property line?
Property
Oh,
lines,
right, they would set that
well,
right there greater than, 15 feet.
Yeah, we've annotated where the setback is on the property.
on this sheet here, cause I mean, there's a lot of lines on here and I'm
Yep.
trying to,
On the C1 sheet, if you have a full size,
is this one?
Yeah, that one.
Yep.
right.
Yep, so around the perimeter, as opposed to along the frontage of Main Street, there's a red line. With 15-foot side setback
Okay,
location
Oh, I
annotated.
see. Oh, I see, just this whole line that extends.
Oh, yeah,
parallel
yeah.
to the property line, the 15-foot setback.
And the setback from the travelway is also annotated on the plan down on Main Street.
and there's the existing well right there.
Mhm.
The new well is over here, so.
I see it right there, yeah. Yep, and the septic field that is going into is out here behind, right there. Okay,
Definitely need that.
which is for the,
Well, those. Might be on
it might be on.
Yeah, we've not, it is in excess of 100 feet, but we've not annotated it. I can report to you what that is, or I can add it to the plan. It's just gonna add to the line work that's in your way.
Well, if it's the proposed well estate, I guess we could measure it. And the septic is evident.
Yeah,
And I see there will be wetland impact. So,
That's with fill slope.
right, so Phil, you'll have to, is that require a DEP permit?
It's an insufficient amount of impact to trigger the NRPA standard, the first 4,300 square feet
Okay,
of impact. Just requires the owner track their cumulative impact on the property. And the first level of permitting, the so-called tier 1 permit, starts at 4,300 square feet.
so you don't need to do a permit by rule?
Correct, there is no permit by rule applicable to permanently impacting wetlands.
That part, I think, is all flat here.
Mhm, yep.
I just can't believe the folks typed up our whole ordinance on here. Like, well, but it's helpful, we can reread our ordinance, yep. Yeah, but it doesn't have to ask for applications a lot, or maybe you do.
No, not very often.
We haven't seen it.
No. You have to do more work here.
Yeah. It says,
what do we need next? Site review?
Yeah.
yeah. And you notice that they,
From.
yeah, they've actually gone through the criteria of approval, so we can review those next week for
Right.
findings of fact.
Page 16 where you saw 14 again.
Yeah, I wasn't. It does. Thank you.
Apologies.
It brings it up to 17, right?
Yeah, so 17 is the correct number.
That's correct.
So just a site review. Oh, and will you have the corners of the building staked
We can, is there a timeline that you prefer? Not to happen
just before the next meeting
before next week?
and
Usually.
site review?
We usually have a site review a few days before the next meeting, so week and a half. But just check with Dave. The timing with David, he directs that review.
And is there anything else from me?
Just the site review and the, criteria of approval.
Mhm.
And we don't need the fire marshal. Before we.
Do we need the fire marshal letter?
We don't, no,
Or they do?
they don't.
Just for CO, right?
Yeah, you can approve
Right,
what's
Right.
presented without.
but
the
for,
original, yeah.
for CO, they have to have the fire marshal approve it somehow.
When will we get the electrical?
I will, well,
Next meeting, maybe?
if I can inquire of Mark if he's got any update, or I will pass the inquiry along, but we'll try and get it before the next meeting. Mark is muted or
He's
Yeah.
trying to talk, he's nodding his head.
he says we'll get it done.
Yeah, we will try to have that information submitted prior to the next meeting for folks' review.
Okay.
And I suppose maybe ask, fire chief if he has any.
Yeah, we'll send out those obligatory letters per the ordinance.
Okay.
Next meeting is August 7th.
Anything else before we move forward?
So. What? Make a motion.
Okay.
I move we table application, MD 01-23 for site review.
Second. In discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. We said site review, well, about, right, we still have to do criteria, but that's next meeting. But yeah, site review has to be there first, right?
Yeah.
Yes, can't do both.
But Dave will let them know everything they have to have marked off for us.
Basically. Corners of the building,
Mhm.
proposed well,
Yeah, septic.
just do we what they have to take and measure.
Yep.
Just to verify the setback.
And who's going to
That's the
go on the site
boundaries of the
review?
property.
Who's
I'll
going to
go.
go on the site
I'll be
review?
around.
I'll go.
Alright, we got Gil and Roger.
Yeah.
Guys can let me know when you get that staked out.
Mhm.
I'll get it in the site review.
Yep. Would you like somebody to present or be representing the
Wouldn't
applicant?
hurt.
Wouldn't hurt.
In case they have any questions.
We could probably.
Look at you, Pete. Excellent. Pete's my buddy.
You know, get here all the time.
Very well.
Was that it for this one?
For now.
For now. All right, other business, we don't have a CEO report,
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
and people wishing to address the planning board.
Yeah, actually, but what I'd like to address the planning board about is really the business that you just closed, because I think as part of the site review, you should ask for the delineation of the wetland edge, exactly where it is on the lot, because the amount of wetland on the lot gets subtracted from the total square footage when you start looking at lot coverage. Okay, And you're supposed to be, in what I think is this zone, you're supposed to be limited to 20% of lot coverage. And there's a lot of paving and building there, and I just don't know about lot coverage otherwise. Secondly, I looked at the plans Friday, I guess it was, in Dave's office, and I didn't see the zoning lines. I believe that it's RU where the town office is, and it's town centers district on the other side, which is this line right here. That's the corner of the town office building, and it curves in and goes up at an undetermined direction out here and comes back. I have heard conversation that says that the lot line defines the zoning boundaries. And I know that is true, and that's what people try to do, but in the case that it's not specifically drawn as a lot line, it seems to me it was approved by town meeting was this line, which means that part of the septic system, which is here, is in the town centers district rather than in the rural protection district. And there are different standards in terms of septic system and setback from wells and everything else if they're in the resource in the town centers district. And finally, I know that there's a problem with this question, but I do think you ought to understand what exactly is the septic system that is here now. And part of that is what is the capacity of it that you are adding to. And I don't believe, the last I knew, that nobody had found a stamped engineered paper for, you know, not a permit, but a design stamped permit by whomever that was the engineer that says that septic system had X amount of capacity for X amount of people and floor area in the town centers district, and then that would define how much more capacity has to be found for the town's, the health center building. So just questions I think you ought to answer. And a part of that is, I was struck looking at the things in Dave's office that the applicant seems to have accepted the fact, which was a long-standing debate with this committee. If you are in a rural development application, you're making a rural development application, all of the standards of the land use ordinance apply. And the resource development district is almost like an overlay. There are other standards that have to be applied. So I think there are standards that you ought to consider when you consider a site review, and also when you consider just generally what the standards are for the town centers district. If I'm correct in thinking that part of the septic system would be in the town centers district, and just generally understand what the standards are for the
One, I
resource.
think that I think that the town district line for, where you're talking about over the septic system was there before that line was ever established, so I mean.
But that doesn't change the fact that it's still in the town centers district, and if you're adding to it
It is not.
any capacity, it seems to me you ought to consider what the standards are for the town centers.
There is no difference there is no difference in setbacks between rural and town center district as far as
Okay,
septic.
but how about setback from septic system and a well?
There is no difference, it's 100 feet.
I think it's 200 feet if you read the ordinance.
Nope.
Okay,
And we do have the design for the existing.
Huh?
And we do have the design for the existing septic system.
you do have it.
Absolutely.
Okay, you have a stamped plan.
Yep.
Okay,
have check capacity.
Yep.
okay, great.
The other one, I have a plan here for adding to what's already there.
So the distinctions between the resource protection districts that we've annotated on our plan are predicated on the Ellsworth Protection District map.
Right,
And that does call for this line being the boundary line of these two adjacent tax parcels, Stone Columns and the town office. In footnote
They're discreetly tiny,
Mhm.
but it's enumerated as the southerly boundary of 17B with 17 on map 17.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay, thanks.
Thank you
very much for your
very
time.
much.
See you again.
Are you leaving?
No, either way, if it's easier to leave them and take them, I have to take that bag back so I can take them as well. Either way, rather than not clutter up your space, people
You
need
want
them.
to keep those?
If they're helpful, I'll leave them.
We all have a. Yeah, you can take. Yeah, by the way.
Stephen Collins.
This guy? Oh, okay. Anything else? I don't think, let's see, we got committee report?
Oh, we do that. Oh, I get
Is there any?
What?
Hey,
Well,
Taking on the boat back.
we'll wait till they get out.
How you doing?
That's big. That's the right.
They wait for the,
I just didn't see it on the agenda.
No.
Interview. Have a good evening. Thank you.
You too.
Thank you.
okay, back to our agenda. No correspondence, committee reports, do we have any of those?
We met once since last meeting, but
That was just.
I have nothing to say about it.
Okay.
The Harbor Committee tried to meet, but we didn't have enough people.
No quorum.
No quorum.
No additional business for me. Now it says executive session. The reason we were gonna do an executive session, the thought behind it was to talk about our two applicants and to discuss our two applicants. Terry,
Could we interview them first and then get their comments and then go into executive session?
we can get that comments.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and then we can decide whether to go executive session or not.
Okay.
But you don't have to do the executive session. You can interview your applicants. And you will do a paper ballot after that to decide who you want to serve on the select board.
Well, we'll decide that after the interview.
Right.
All right.
That's what I would do.
But because
Then
you have two.
officially, we start the interview. So if you want to ask questions, or if you want to hear from individuals, you hear from individuals.
Why do you each want to be on the planning board?
Yeah.
Terry, you're up, Terry.
The quickest reason for why I want to be in the planning board is that I think I'd like to get to the point of, for myself, of kind of stopping complaining about what's going on, and in fact, taking positive steps to be part of the process. I think that there are a number of things that could perhaps be done better or more efficiently, or be considered more carefully. And I'd like to be a part of that. I think that just in terms of attendance, whether by Zoom or whether in person, that even from the time that I went through this process before the planning board in, I don't know, probably the 1990s, late 1990s, and then 15, 20 years after, in terms of where I'm living now, I understand the process pretty well. And I have, in the interest of sort of protecting my own property and coming from the perspective of somebody who has done a lot of work. I was on the planning board on Cape Cod for a while. I was chairman of the Board of Appeals in Camden for a period of time, and I was chairman of a conservation commission in Falmouth on Cape Cod for another period of time. So I have a lot of experience reading zoning, which is kind of consistent from place to place, town to town, especially in Maine. And I have a lot of experience running and being part of and participant in meetings and dealing with applicants and dealing with neighbors and concerned citizen and trying to find a satisfactory point to bring together and settle all of that. So basically, I think that I have a lot to offer to the board. I in fact have been offering some informal advice to people on occasion, which I hope was found helpful. And I would like to continue that process and maybe make it more formal and more regular than it has been in the past. That's it.
Question?
Well, one question I have is that, well, in terms of, if you want to be able to vote as the planning board member, you have to attend the meetings.
Yep.
You cannot, do it by Zoom. And, was there something else? It just went blank.
Well,
Yeah,
if you
I think
hear from
so.
Ann.
Why can't we vote by
Yeah.
Zoom? We did it when there was a pandemic.
Yeah, but that was only allowed during the pandemic. We can verify it, but from what I understand, it, we can't do it anymore.
I didn't realize.
Say that again?
I didn't realize we can't do that anymore.
We should look
Yeah,
into that.
well, we'll
We
look at-
should look into it. Yeah.
From what I understood, you can, vote, but it has to be, roll call.
Roll call.
Voting, yeah.
Yeah, we should verify. Thank you.
Let's hear from Ann.
Well, wait, anybody got any other questions, comments?
I asked them both why they wanted to be on the board.
Okay. You're right.
So I
I
arrived,
stand
I'm like,
corrected.
I'm a blank slate, so I don't know anything. But I want to participate in the housing solutions and land management, and also to to contribute to my society and to the community. So
Anybody got questions or comments for either?
So you're willing to go through the ordinance?
read,
and-
I'm willing
Yeah.
to read and learn.
Yes, multiple times. I know Wendy is our newest member, and she actually has just gotten more confident with it after the
Yes.
subcommittee she's on, where we're all struggling through it, trying to identify weak points in the ordinance. It's a little overwhelming.
But I love participating and being part of the team to come up with solutions. So I really like that.
How about anybody else, Wendy or Gil, Roger? Question?
No, all right.
Well, you said, Terry, you had mentioned complaining about things. Some people might see it as complaining. I chose to see it as, initiating thought process, checking things out.
Thank you. Let me expand on that a little bit. I think, as always, the board can do a better job. Doing a good job, you can do a better job. You're doing a better job, you can do an even better job. I think there's room for growth and change and improvement, and that's when I'm complaining. It's because I think you guys ought to be considering some things that are not being considered, and I would like to have the opportunity to bring it up. Coming to meetings rather than doing in Zoom is not a problem for me. In fact, I've been having problems with my ears, and attending a meeting is much better than trying to do it on Zoom. I miss stuff on Zoom. So that's not a problem for me. That's it, basically. I'd like the opportunity to do something.
Good.
Well, I guess I'd like to make a motion that we go into executive session to discuss it.
Second.
Okay, discussion? You got any things you wanted to say to that?
No.
I'm sorry, was that to me?
Yeah, that was to you.
Yeah, I would like to, if it's the whole executive session law seems to me, or the law, whatever we call it, that chapter, seems to be concerned about protecting the reputation and the kind of the comfort of the person who's being discussed, being in a hearing for an application or for anything else. I can't say anything for Ann, but for me, I would prefer to participate, not to participate, but to observe that process. Because I'm concerned that I know that one gentleman in town went out of his way to tell people that I was a troublemaker and blah, blah, blah. And I don't think it had any major impact, except I've talked to a couple of people who have had that conversation with him. And I'm concerned that my reputation might be damaged by you guys because of something you heard, and I'd like to be able to protect myself. I don't have any personally, I don't have any concerns about either my reputation or my past history or my participation with or in being on the board. So if I have a right to ask to be included, I would like to be included. Obviously, I can't do that for Ann. But if there's a way for you guys to have a discussion that is first about me and then I would leave, or I'd hang out back and come in after you do Ann first, I would be happy to do it that way. That's not I don't know what the word is. I mean, that would be my preference if I can do it. If the board can find a way to allow me in, I would appreciate it. And if I can't be allowed in, I would simply ask the board to stay to positive discussions of people and interests and backgrounds and history and all of that stuff. And if there is any negative stuff out there about me, I don't think there is, but if there is, I guess I would ask that not have a place in this discussion.
I don't think anyone on this board is going to listen to town gossip and have that
Okay,
affect their
all right,
decision.
that's great, that's reassuring.
Yeah, well, part of that bylaw, which, or regulation, which exists in, I think every New England, town, actually, if not further, is for the board as well as for the applicant. So it's not
Yeah.
just about you, Terry, it's also about the board.
I agree.
So,
Vote,
what?
there's a motion on the floor to go into executive session.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Motion's been made to go into executive session. Motion's been seconded. Anybody approve? We did discussion.
Yeah.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Okay. Would you excuse us, please? And we're gonna shut off the recording or,
Shut off the Zoom and.
and
Yeah,